That language, they live like vermin. Do you believe that that is, as your Republican colleague Chris Christie has said, neo-Nazi rhetoric?
This is a classic mainstream media move. Pick some individual phrase of Donald Trump, focus on literally that word without actually interrogating the substance of what's at issue.
The word was chosen for a reason.
We are in the middle of a cultural war in this country.
The word was chosen for a reason.
It's actually describing a series of behaviors. You have Antifa and other...
I have the full video. CNN Hack reporter just tried to bait Vivi into turning on Trump. Instead, Vivi instantly flipped the script on her, leaving her in shock. You know what's vermin? What is running around San Francisco on any given day? Before Gavin Newsom cleaned it up on a dime to rule out the red carpet for Chinese president, that was Vivi's response to her. I will play this full video so you can see exactly what is going on. You realize at the end of the day, this is how you own the mainstream media. A lot of Republicans often go, play the softball game. Vivi is not doing that. If you have not subscribed to this channel, please endeavor to do that. And if possible, why not share out this video?
That language, they live like vermin. Do you believe that that is, as your Republican colleague Chris Christie has said, neo-Nazi rhetoric?
This is a classic mainstream media move. Pick some individual phrase of Donald Trump, focus on literally that word without actually interrogating the substance of what's at issue.
The word was chosen for a reason.
We are in the middle of a cultural war in this country.
The word was chosen for a reason.
It's actually describing a series of behaviors. You have Antifa and other related groups that have been burning down cities for the last 3 years in this country.
Would you describe them as vermin?
Wildly violating the rule of law. We have an invasion on our southern border. We have millions of people crossing our southern border. Let's talk about the substance of why we have to recognize that we're not in ordinary times.
Would you use that language yourself?
The vocabulary of the vermin or not is not what's important. Well, I haven't used that language. So you can look at my track record on the campaign trail. I talk about the issues. We all talk about them differently. But what I'm not going to do is play some game of focusing on some word that somebody else said without ignoring entirely the substance of what we're actually talking about. A border crisis of historic proportion. Economic stagnation we haven't seen in 50 years, a national identity crisis and a loss of national pride in the next generation that's potentially existential for this country. Let's talk about our dependence on China. Today we're actually talking about Xi Jinping, picking on Donald Trump's word vermin to talk about that status quo. You know what's vermin? What's running around San Francisco on a given day before Gavin Newsom cleaned it up on a dime to roll out the red carpet for Xi Jinping. If he could do that for Xi Jinping, he could have done it on an ordinary day, and yet we're here sitting talking not about the substance of that, but on one word that Donald Trump said in some speech in Miami. This is what's wrong with the mainstream media. Focus on the substance and let's have an actual policy debate rather than talking to a presidential candidate instead of the policy substance of what's actually going on in the country, picking on some word that Donald Trump said on a certain day and asking me for comment on it. Give me a break.
Okay, so she's laying out 3 different women that you've attacked. Why is she wrong?
Well, she also left off that list Dick Cheney, Lindsey Graham, Karl Rove, John Bolton. The real issue is there's an old neocon wing of the Republican Party that I've been crystal clear critical of. And what makes me crack up about Nikki Haley is that she claims to eschew identity politics, yet embraces it when it's convenient. So yes, Ronna McDaniel, if she's lost the last 4 elections after she took over as chairwoman of the RNC in 2017, and she lost in 2018 and 2020 and 2022 and 2023, I don't care if she's a man or woman. She deserves to be held accountable. Yeah, standard of justice in this country, one standard applied.
But Trump is using the word hostages. Do you think that they're hostages
for the prior 2 years?
Isn't that irresponsible to call them hostages my view is, with what's going on in Israel right now?
I mean, Jim, let me just be really clear about what's irresponsible as it relates to coverage of Donald Trump. And I think that your network and others like you owe some accountability here. From the Trump-Russia collusion hoax that never was, to the Hunter Biden laptop story that was actually real before people before the election were told that it was false. So I think that the real...
If you have seen this, Vivi is a national treasure. According to this tweet, CNN host sit in silence for nearly 2 minutes as Vivi goes off after she tries asking questions about Trump. The moment came when CNN host Abby asked about how Trump called his political opponent vermin. Vivi then flipped the script and went off on the media for obsessing with small incidents instead of the bigger issues. This is a classic mainstream media move. Pick some individual's phrase of Donald Trump, focus on literally that word without actually interrogating the substance of what at issues. The word was chosen for a reason. It is actually describing a series of behaviors. You have Antifa and other related groups that have been burning down cities for the last 3 years in this country. They are violating the rule of law. We have an invasion on our southern border. We have millions of people crossing our southern border. Let's talk about the substance. This was brilliant. These are real issues CNN should be discussing, not being obsessed with anything that Trump says. I saw MNBC, in fact, all the mainstream media picking up this same talking point. It is funny. Imagine now saying, oh, Trump is just sounding like Hitler. That is a new phrase. We saw this in 2016, where they framed up a lot of things. Trump was this, Trump is this, Trump, every year they always come with something new. Imagine somebody speaking, they have to count out a single phrase you say. Few years ago, fake news was something on social media, mainstream media, using to traumatize people. When Trump came in, categorize all the mainstream media as fake news, it became irrelevant. A lot of people now don't say, the mainstream media don't talk about that again. Now this phrase, they are picking up that Trump is another Hitler. He wants to go after his political opponents and people, persecutors. It is insane. Yes, have you noticed something? For the past few weeks, Vivid has been training for being outspoken, calling out these people. During that debate, Vivid did the same thing. Call out Chris Cuomo, call out Nikki Haley, call out the RNC chair, call out this one. That is how it is done. If you call out these people, expose their lies, they try to adjust. Just look at a short clip like this. There are real issues plaguing people. CNN cannot focus on it. It is to pick up few words from Donald Trump, and they are printing our articles on it. Is that how it's supposed to be? Sometimes I get crazy when I see this continuing to happen on a daily basis. That is insane.